the 5-hour demonstration. As you've just heard, das heer is the name of our society, and it literally means the army. And we represent a rifle squad from the 27th Infantry Regiment, which was part of 3 regiments that made up the 12th Infantry Division. The division was formed in northern Germany in 1934. All its members would have come from northeast Germany, because Germany at that time was broken up into districts. So District 2 is where the members of this division would have come from. It served in Poland, Belgium and France, and after the fall of France it was sent to the Netherlands for occupational duties. Recalled in the summer of 1941 to become part of Army Group North and take part in Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of Russia. That's where it stayed till its virtual destruction in 1944. Our group concentrates on the early period, so what you see here today is what the German soldier was wearing and the equipment he was using in 1939 and 40. The equipment and uniforms at this early stage were of the highest quality. From about 1940 onwards, there were subtle changes made to the uniform due to production costs and materials, right up until the end of the war, when the uniform was totally different to what you see here today. Before we move into the weapons section of things, we're going to have a quick look at the uniform and equipment. We'll have a couple of the guys come out and they'll do a bit of a twirl in front of you so you can get a closer look as I describe them. Okay, at this early stage, on the top of his head, he wears the iconic German steel helmet. This was at the time a modern version of the helmet that they were using in the First World War. There were actually 3 versions of the helmet. This is the M35, the most complex made. A lot of materials went into it. It's quite a process to produce one of these. Again, made it quite slow and costly to produce. In 1942 they produced the M42, which had no refineries. It was simply stamped out of one piece of steel. It didn't have a rolled edge around it, it was just left sharp. But that was the most common, as it was produced in massive numbers. The tunic he wears is made of wool. And it's the colour is filled grey. As you can see, it's more green than grey. It's lined inside, so it's quite comfortable to wear. He also has 4 belt hooks, 2 at the front, 2 at the rear. This supports the weight on the belt. As the belt hooks disappeared, you would then see what you'd probably see in movies, the Germans wearing leather Y straps. This would go over the shoulder to support the weight once the belt hook started to disappear. His trousers are, at this early stage, especially in the Polish campaign, were stone grey. That's because they were using up dyes that they had left over from the First World War. Very soon after that, the trousers would be replaced by field grey trousers, the same colour as the tunic. On his feet, he wears the marching boot, probably best known to everybody else as the jack boot. Again, by 1940, a lot of frontline units were having these replaced by short ankle boots and gaiters, very much like the British soldier. Not very popular amongst the rank and file of the German troops. They thought the boots made them look smart. They were comfortable to wear, and they helped to keep his feet dry. And the short ankle boot did none of this. Around his waist he has a leather belt with 2 ammunition pouches at the front, containing 30 rounds each. On his right hip he has a bread bag which contains, he can put anything in there, socks, his filled cooking tin, anything that he could carry in there, and also his pockets will be bulging with other stuff as well. On the outside of the bread bag, normally he would be carrying his mess tin and his water bottle. On his left hip, he would normally carry a short, straight-handled shovel for digging holes, and attached to that would be the bayonet. My other colleague, as you can see walking around, is the short name for him is Sammy. It's basically a field medic, which is why he's got the armband on, and he also wears a medic pouch on his waist belt. The last two items, the cylindrical tin that you can see on the back there. He doesn't carry his packed lunch in that, that's his gas mask. The fear of gas being used in World War II was very strong after the horrendous effects of it in the First World War. Both Germany and Great Britain both still had large stockpiles of gas. Fortunately, it was never used, but that didn't stop all armies being issued with gas masks. On the front, across the gas mask strap, he has a bag, and in here is a gas sheet. So in the event of a gas attack, you get your gas mask out, put it on, get your gas sheet out, get down on the ground, and you cover yourself in the gas sheet, and this would help to protect you from certain types of gases entering through your skin. The last piece of equipment, normally found rolled up on the back of the belt, is a camouflaged piece of material in triangular shape. This is called a Zeltbahn, tent quarter, tent shelter. Each individual man was issued with one of these. The pattern for this particular camouflage was called Splinter A. It has buttons running around both sides, so you can actually join them together. It has a slot in the centre which you can put your head through and act as a poncho. In fact, this piece of kit was so clever, the Germans in the early part produced a pamphlet of the various ways that this piece of kit could be used. Okay, gentlemen, thank you. Just before we move into the weapons section, as you probably heard, some of these weapons can be quite loud. So if you're a bit concerned about young children, just get them to cup their ears. Do not let them stick their fingers in their ears, and just keep their mouths open slightly. Sometimes at these events, people might have a pet dog. Please keep a tight hold on the rein. As we know, especially on firework night, dogs do not like sudden loud noises, so we don't want your dog tearing off into the distance. Safety, we take safety very seriously. Today we are using a mixture of live and blank firing weapons, firing full-size blank rounds. Once the firer has finished firing, then he will not move until the weapon has been checked that it is safe for him to return to the line. If he gets a problem with a weapon, and this can happen not just in weapons of this age, but also modern weapons, he will attempt to clear the jam. If he cannot clear it, then the weapon will be put down and dealt with safely at the end of this demonstration. The first weapon we're going to have a look at is a pistol. And this weapon is the Walther P38. The P38 replaced the Luger as the official sidearm for the German Wehrmacht in 1938. The Luger was a very good weapon, but unfortunately it was fully machined, very slow and very costly to produce. This weapon made more use of pressed metal stampings, cheaper, and could be mass produced quite quickly. That didn't take anything away of the quality of the weapon. It's widely regarded as one of the best pistols of World War II. So good, in fact, that some German police forces were still using a version of this called the P1 in the 70s and 80s. It also is one of the world's first semi-automatic pistols to have a double hammer action. What that means is if you've got a round already in the chamber, the hammer is forward, you can safely carry it around in your holster, in your belt, in your hand, without the fear of it going off. It's a very deliberate action to pull the trigger, so you cannot fire this weapon accidentally. Also, it means if you've got a round in the chamber, then you simply just have to point and shoot. You do not need to manually cock the weapon first. Obviously, if there's no round in, then you have to cock it. These weapons, semi-automatic weapons, fire a 9mm parabellum round. Parabellum simply is the second half of a Latin phrase, and in English that phrase is, if you want peace, prepare for war, and parabellum means prepare for war. And the company that was producing the 9mm originally for the Luger liked that phrase so much they took that as their company motto, and that is why quite often you hear the word 9mm parabellum. And we will attempt to fire the pistol for you now.
Good old German technology. Yeah. It's going nice up there, the bike cake. Yep.
As you can see, it happened to me straight away. Hopefully that will be the only time. Okay, the next weapon is the rifle, and this is a Mauser K98K bolt action rifle firing a 7.92mm round. Forget what you see in the movies. This was the weapon of choice. Not all running around with submachine guns. Complete nonsense. Okay, this was the weapon. By the start of the World War II, it probably was outdated, but it was still an accurate and reliable weapon, certainly on par with the British Lee Enfield. British Lee Enfield had a 10-round magazine box, whereas this weapon has a 5-round internal box, but in trained hands it can be loaded very, very quickly. Obviously, the Germans went on to produce all types of infantry weapons, including the Sturmgewehr, which was the forerunner of the Kalashnikov, and that's why all modern weapons are called assault weapons. So that's what Sturmgewehr is. It means assault rifle or assault weapon. This weapon, as I say, fires a 7.92. Each member of the squad has 60 rounds in total. Probably all he needs on an average combat visit, and we're going to fire this one for you. for them to do the weapons check. Go back into line. The next weapon is the MG34 machine gun. I won't save your disappointment to the end. This is a deactivated version, but it's integral to the German infantry squad, which is why we're going to just briefly give you some information on it and show you it. This is the machine gun team. This is basically regarded as the world's first general purpose machine gun. As you can see, it can be easily carried by one man. Machine guns up to this point, especially during the First World War, were heavy based, normally crewed by 3 or 4 members. This gun can be swiftly moved by one man, and he can even fire it on his own if necessary. It fires the same round as the rifle, 7.92, and it can fire theoretically up to 900 rounds a minute. He also carries a box pouch on his belt. This is for doing some basic repairs, or if he gets blockages, there are tools in there for the extractor. Also the spider sight, where it can be attached to the weapon, put on a Dreiben tripod and attempt to shoot down aircraft. It was used in multiple roles. You will always see it inside Panzer tanks with just the front end sticking out, sometimes in the aircraft, over and above the later version of the MG42. The problem with the 34, like so many German weapons at the beginning of the war, they were too well made. They were very expensive to make, fully machined, and slow to produce, which is why they brought the MG42 out, made more use of pressed metal stampings, much cheaper, and could be mass produced much quicker. Although, like all German weapons, they saw service to the end of the Second World War and long afterwards in other campaigns. He carries a sidearm for his own personal protection. He's going to be really in trouble if he needs to use it, because it means he's being overrun. The number 2, as probably in British terms is known, helps to carry extra ammunition. He's dressed as a rifleman to help protect the machine gunner. He carries extra ammunition. In fact, the whole squad will be carrying cans of ammunition and extra belts around their neck, purely and simply because this weapon eats ammunition. But it protected them, and it changed infantry tactics forever, because it was used in such an offensive way by moving it swiftly and putting down a devastating rate of fire, is why the Germans could move swiftly to attack their targets. Up to this point, even in the British Army, the likes of the Bren gun were still being used in a defensive role, not in an offensive role. As I say, unfortunately, this is unless you have a Section 5 ticket, which you have to be on good terms with God to get one of those, you cannot have a firing version of this weapon. But as I say, it is integral to the German infantry squad, so that's why we brought it up here today. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, that's never happened before. Another question from the audience. Okay, the next weapon we're going to look at is a submachine gun. And this is the MP40. The MP40 was a cheaper and cost-effective version of the MP38. They look very, very similar, but there were some subtle differences. The MP38 had some pressed metal stampings in its construction, but was still mainly machined. The MP40, however, had a lot of pressed metal stampings and brazings, which made it cheap and easy to mass produce. In fact, over 1 million MP40s were produced. What you're looking at is the world's first submachine gun to incorporate Bakelite, or plastic, and to have a folding metal stock. It fires the 9mm parabellum round from a 32 round box magazine. It is not a Schmeisser. A lot of people might think it is. It is not. This weapon was not designed by Hugo Schmeisser, but unfortunately when the Allies landed in after D-Day, the only German designer they really heard of was Schmeisser, and everything they picked up was a Schmeisser. This weapon was designed by Heinrich Bollmann and his team from the Earl factories. Schmeisser took the front section, the metal section, and fitted it to a wooden stock that was called the MP41, and which basically became a police weapon, but that was his only involvement in it. So if you didn't design it, you can't put your name to it, but unfortunately the name has stuck. And we will attempt to fire the submachine guns for you. Just to say, I will let my colleague try and fire a couple of rounds off first before I start. Hopefully everything will go as we want. I was just teasing you with mine. Okay, the next weapon we're going to have a look at is the German stick grenade. My young colleague here will come around and show you. This is the model 24. A modified version of the type of grenades that they were using in the First World War. When they started out filling food cans with nuts and bolts and everything else, the Germans came up with this type of grenade because you can actually, due to its shape, throw it a lot further, especially in trench warfare, than you can with a normal round grenade. This weapon is just explosive. It does not fragment like a British grenade. It's high explosive, so obviously it will do the damage where it lands, and it will maim, shock and disorientate others just outside the blast zone. You've got to remember that you would have quite a lot of these coming towards you. So, as you might have seen in the movie, somebody running over, picking it up and chucking it back, does not happen. Okay, there's about 4.5 second fuse from the time he sets it off, but by the time it gets there. So it'll either explode just before it gets there or as soon as it lands. The weapon is armed by unscrewing the cap at the base of the wooden shaft. A porcelain bead drops out on a piece of string. The string goes up the neck of the wooden shaft to a match fuse. When you yank down on that, that will ignite it, and then you get rid of it basically as quickly as you can before it explodes. Okay. You could set the time slightly longer, depending on what you were intending to do with it. Quite often they would unscrew the heads of other grenades and bind them round one single grenade to create a much bigger charge. This grenade would have about 1.5 pounds of powder. Okay, so we're going to give you a short demonstration in a second of something that contains a lot less. Okay, so obviously we don't have real German grenades, but we do have some pyrotechnics that are based on the German grenade. Okay, smaller version, and contains the legal limit of 1.5 grams. So you can imagine between that and 1.5 pounds there's a massive difference. Okay, and hopefully if they go off, then let's see if they do. Okay, as I said, that's 1.5 grams, so you can, it's sometimes even hard to imagine what 1.5 pounds do. Okay. The next weapon we're going to have a look at is the 8cm mortar. This weapon, because it's a heavy weapon, wouldn't be with the regiment or any one of the 3 regiments. This kind of material will be supplied by the division. Could be used individually, and or you'd have a whole mortar bank firing this. This weapon fires only 2 different types of shell: high explosive and smoke. So it had a range of about 2.5 kilometres, which, if I get my calculations right, I think that's about 1.5 miles, but I'm sure somebody will put me right if that's not correct. So that's the kind of distance it would cover. When the Americans come in the war and into France, they actually thought these mortars were automatic because the Germans could fire them so rapidly and accurately. The truth is, the German crews were very well trained. What we're going to attempt to do for you now is fire 3 rounds, and hopefully they will go off, and just give you an idea how the German mortar crew works. Danke. Okay, everyone, we're almost at the end. There'll be one last thing that we will do. We will finish with firing the rifles and the SMG all at once. We will start by throwing 3 grenades. Once the grenades explode, the squad will empty the magazines. We'll do a quick weapons check, safety check. They'll return to the line. I'll come back to the table and close this demonstration for you. Thank you. Thank you very much. The men of 2nd Company, 27th Infantry Regiment from Das Heer. Thank you for your attendance. Enjoy the rest of your day here at Dover Castle. We are just down past the Sergeant Major's house. If you want to come and see some more weapons, ask questions, please feel free to do so. Enjoy the rest of your time here at Dover Castle. Thank you very much.